We get so many questions about naturally coloring your hair with henna, and especially if you have gray hair. And in this video, this is going to be a complete guide to getting you the color that you want and desire, even if you have grays or not. This is going to be your go-to video. So let's get into this. My name is Khadija. Welcome to the Hennasooq channel. I'm an expert in henna, natural hair color, Ayurvedic healthy hair care, and beautiful henna body art. So the first outcome, you want to get copper colored hair, but you have gray hair. How are we going to achieve that easily? In a world where we have an endless amount of patience, this would be an easy outcome. Fortunately, sometimes it is not, because gray hair or gray is completely the lightest of the lightest hair to start with, basically, other than blonde. And so to get that copper tone, you're going to be using the Moroccan henna and the Jamila henna powder at 100%. You're not going to cut it with cassia or any other herbs or any other dishes, maybe a little bit of aloe vera powder, but you really want to keep the Jamila henna or the Moroccan henna powder that you decide to use for the copper tones. Just choose one or the other. You don't have to use both, by the way. Just choose one or the other. The one that's probably a little bit more popular is definitely the Moroccan henna powder. That gives you that beautiful copper tone really easily without going too dark. I love that one. And you can add a little bit of aloe vera powder, but don't add any other ingredients. You really want to focus on getting it to be copper, and the best part of this recipe to get copper tones is the actual henna powder itself. Make sure that you're following the directions for the dye release on the back of the package, and also leaving in your hair at least 3 to 4 hours so you get good penetration and good color. You don't want to skimp on that. When it's under 3 to 4 hours, it's going to be less bright, so you definitely want to make sure that you leave it at 3 to 4 hours, but you don't have to leave it in longer than that. That will be plenty of time. But when you are trying to get that copper tone, you really got to follow the copper recipes that we have right here on the YouTube channel to get you those results. But the key is when your hair is very light and you have just all gray hair or a majority of gray hair, it's going to pull orange at first. So you want to get that rich coppery tone. So to easily get that, you definitely have to be ready to do added layers of henna. The more that you do those applications of the henna copper recipe, then you're going to have that beautiful copper tone. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. And another key thing to note is that when you're going for copper tones, you definitely want to use Moroccan henna or Jamila henna powder, because the Indian henna powders unfortunately tend to go dark, too dark. So you want to avoid that. And to start off with gray hair, you definitely want to open that hair up to receive the color even better. So using our soap nut hair wash or our soap nut handmade shampoo bar, that is going to open up your hair and get it ready to receive the color. And by doing so, you'll get the henna to stick to the gray even better. And in order to make sure that that color doesn't fade at all, what you're going to do is use Color Safe shampoo, which will be our hair wash that we have specifically formulated to be color safe when you're using your henna hair color, so that way you get longevity and really good results. So you could use the cassia neem infused hair wash or our Zisophis hair wash, which adds a lot of thickness to the hair and volume as well. Also, you don't want to do heavy oiling. So if you're really into oiling your hair deeply, sometimes that may pull color out. So you want to use more gentle leave-ins and gentle oils that won't pull the color out. Now, scenario number 2, you want to color your hair brown with henna and indigo, and you have gray hair. Now, to get brown tones, you need henna and indigo. You can't use one without the other to get brown tones. It's not gonna happen. You have to have both, because henna is the base, that reddish base, and the indigo gives you that more of that black tone. But when you put red and black together, you get brown of equal parts of each, so 50-50. So whatever amount that you need for your hair, make sure that you're using equal proportions of henna and indigo, and you have to mix them separately. So mix your henna first, follow the steps on the back of the package, then you mix your indigo, follow the steps on the back of that package, and then you can combine them like paint and then mix them up really well, and then that will give you that brown tone. Even though I know it's gonna look like kind of like mud, you're gonna be like, really? How am I getting brown from this concoction? But it will give you a gorgeous brown. And again, if you'd like, you can add a little bit bit of aloe vera powder. You don't need a lot, but aloe vera powder is very good to keep it moisturized. And you can add a very small amount as well, like 5% max of aloe vera powder for all your recipes. So let's talk about like if you have all gray hair versus just gray at the roots. Like, what will the different outcomes be? Well, that's a really good question that needs to be addressed. So if your hair is all one tone basically and all gray, then you probably will have to do a couple applications to build up that color. Remember, this is a translucent dye that just works on your natural hair color. It's not a chemical. It's not stripping and depositing the same type of way. So you definitely want to be ready to do a few applications to get that color, that nice, beautiful brown results on all your gray at one time. And if you only have gray at the roots, you know, maybe you had previous color, and remember, you can use our henna hair dye safely if you still use chemicals. Yes, you can. It will not melt your hair won't go on fire, but that's for another video. That won't happen. And then from there, what you're gonna do is you could just do the roots if you'd like to. If you don't want that length to get darker or change in any type of way, you can just do the roots, but know that if your roots, because they're so much lighter than your, the rest of your length, you may have to do more than one application on the roots if your hair is, just still too light and you want it to catch up. So you have to give it at least, whenever I mention this, you may even have to give it like 3 to 5 applications. I know it sounds like a lot, but remember, henna has a lot of benefits for your hair. So when you're doing that, you're going to be really protecting your hair and really transitioning your hair, even from chemicals, to a more natural way of coloring your hair and safely. So should you be doing a 1-step process or a 2-step process? It can vary, but ideally, in an ideal world, brown results with henna and indigo at 50/50 is a 1-step process in an ideal world. But for stubborn grays and hair that just wants to pop out of the color and it doesn't want to lay still and lay flat in the paste itself when you're trying to color your hair, then you may have to do a 2-step process. But for brown tones, follow the first method that I explained how to do. If you are not happy and it's not coming out the color the way that you want to and the coverage that you want, then either you could definitely give us a call or use a chat feature. The chat feature right now is probably the best way to reach us and the quickest, or you can also email us. So if you're not happy with that color though, what can you do in the meantime if you have to wait? Maybe it's the weekend and you can't reach us. Then what you can do is do the indigo just on the roots, just on the areas that it didn't take. Do that, leave it on for like an hour and it'll make it much darker as well. So that's a really good tip and method that you could use to get it darker, especially when you can't reach us and you're not really sure. Again, in an ideal world, when you're asking how many applications does it take to cover gray hair? Well, it would be nice if it was just once. And it can be, don't get me wrong. I don't want to overwhelm you, but I want to be transparent and honest that everyone's gray hair is different. Everyone's hair is different. So I want us to know all the things that could possibly happen so that way you can make an informed decision and be happy with your results. So ideally, usually grays get covered in the first try. Like for someone like me, I get gray coverage, boom, it's good, I'm happy, and it settles in 2 days and I'm good to go. But as you get more gray and your gray changes and it gets more resistant, or maybe it's very dry and it's not open to receiving, there's a lot of factors that go into a person's gray hair situation that might not apply to someone else. So you really have to gauge it with like, all right, is it one shot for me? It may be, and maybe you're someone who's used henna for years and you're like, but it always did this, but it always did that. Remember that every henna and indigo crop that comes out every year, the weather affects how strong that batch might be, just like fruit and vegetables. Like every crop every year can be a little bit different as well, but don't give up. If you need to do more than one application, please do so. You can definitely do so. Let your hair settle, give it 5 to 7 days, go over the areas that need touch-ups, and then you can adjust like from there. Normally it's every 4 to 6 weeks. It depends on how fast your hair grows as well. But that's why I really want you all to write everything down that you're doing so that way you can get to know your hair, especially if you don't have a natural professional near you. You have to write everything down. It's easy to tell yourself that you might remember, but most of the time you might know. So write it down so that you have something to reference and go back to and adjust as needed. Now, what if you want to get dark brown results, maybe black, and you have gray hair? Now, the recipe for that can be a one-step process, which is 3 parts indigo to 1 part henna, or for black tones, you will have to probably follow up with a second step and get that to be black in the second step with just indigo. So, because when you're using indigo at full strength, that's when you're gonna get the most black out of the indigo and the best results in that case, and the best coverage as well for your grays as well when they're stubborn. You know, if you need to do a second step, that's gonna help you a lot with that gray coverage if it's being stubborn and not giving you the results you want. But in an ideal world, that dark brown recipe is easily achieved in a one-step process, and black is always going to be a 2-step process. If you want to see a video where I mix those two and show you exactly how to do it, all you have to do is click on our hair coloring videos, and I have a really comprehensive video showing you how to mix it. Wait for the dye release, follow all the steps for each, and then mix them together. Or the 2-step process, you do the indigo second. But if you have more questions about that dark brown recipe and versus the black recipe, just comment also in the comments below, and I can definitely clear that up for you as well. Because that, I think, is probably where most people get confused, because they're like, well, dark brown, black, they're actually 2 different recipes, you know, a 1-step versus a 2-step, but henna's always involved and indigo is always involved. So a dark brown recipe is going to be 3 parts indigo to 1 part henna. You're going to follow the directions for each exactly to the T. You're gonna definitely follow it exactly the way we have it here on the package so that you can get best results. Don't follow somebody else's recipe, follow our recipes, because we know what works with our products. So it's very important, if you want consistent results from our brand, to follow our directions that we use and do in the salon as well. So you're going to mix up your henna, you're going to mix up your indigo, and then once they're both ready, you're going to combine the paste, the ready paste, together in a bowl, and that'll be your dark brown recipe. For black tones, you know, if you had stubborn gray, you could do that brown or that dark brown recipe as your base, and then you'll follow up with indigo alone, and that'll give you that black tone, because that's how you get that black, that rich black, is with using indigo at its full strength in the second step. So it's a second coloring completely. Like, you are washing out the brown or the dark brown recipe after it's done. I recommend the cleansing co-wash, because again, you're doing 2 coloring treatments and you don't want to dry out your hair. So the cleansing co-wash that we have is unique to any other co-wash out there, because ours is a restorative co-wash, and the only reason it is a co-wash is because it has shikaka infused in that restorative conditioner that we have created, so that way it's very, very moisturizing and rich. And what would be the different outcomes if your hair was all gray? What would be the situation, you know, versus you know, if you had just gray at the roots? So again, it could be that your hair with all gray might need a few applications. So don't despair if your color is not coming out the way you want it. You just have to do a few added applications to get that color where you want it to be, and to cover up all those grays. And the same for the roots. If you're just doing the roots, you know, then you're going to try to, you know, just focus on the roots rather than doing the length, if you don't want the length to get too dark. But if you decide to do all of your hair, which you can do all of your hair. You just may have to go over the roots, because with hair that has 2 different shades in it, even grays, you're gonna probably have to have it catch up to the length, if the length is so much darker. But in an ideal world, it's 1 application, you'll be good to go. But sometimes some grays, and some especially stubborn grays, you might have to do more than 1 application. So just make note of that. So if you have any questions about henna hair coloring, and I hope I did not confuse you, but I want you to have clarity, so just let us know in the comments below. If you want a faster reply, use the chat feature on our website at hennasooq.com, and also you can call us. That's very quick when you want to reach someone, and you can also email us as well. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe and the bell, because I always have new videos coming for you, and I want to show you more about coloring your hair right from the salon setting, because when we open up, I'm gonna have so much to share with you, so you don't want to miss any of our henna hair coloring videos, especially from the salon chair. So I'll see you next time.